George is saying we have another question.
Yeah, so the question that came through was per what Megan had asked. Alex, you could probably answer this well. Is Jim Noman asked, were those appearances part of the overall sponsorship partnership, or were those charged on a per appearance situation? Because I think this can vary a lot.
Yeah, that, you know what? That's a good question. Thanks for asking that, because I forgot to mention. Typically, on a personal services agreement sponsorship, and a lot of professional older athletes, retired athletes will have that if they attach to a brand or a brand pays them. That just means that they have to wear the logo all the time, everywhere they're in public, wear the logo, and whatever you're doing in public, wear our logo. That's a personal services agreement. Many later career partnerships are partnered or structured like that. When it comes to racers who are sponsored by brands and the brand wants to make that racer do an appearance or go to an event, usually you'll have several events listed in a proposal that you will agree to go to, and the proposal will state who pays for that, whether that is covered by the cost of the sponsorship or if that's an additional cost. And if it is an additional cost, it means that the racer wasn't aware that he or she was going to go to an event. So there needs to be a notice given as well. You need 30 days notice before you're asked to go attend a corporate retreat, or you get 2 weeks notice before they say you have to go represent at SEMA. So those things will be stated in advance. Many times have I seen where a company later on in the year, halfway through a sponsorship, realizes, oh, there's something that we need our athletes to do for us. And they call the athlete and ask, hey, can you come and do this? Well, then the question mark is who pays for it, and how much do they pay for it? So it's nice when that stuff is stated in advance and part of an agreement, as opposed to, shoot, do I do this and now I'm spending my own money and I wasn't counting on it, or do I not do this and upset the sponsor and perhaps they don't renew? So there is a little bit of navigating that relationship that you have to understand. Can you say no to a sponsor if it's an important meeting and they want you to go to it? I went to a Home Depot employee gathering in the Home Depot corporate parking lot, and right next to me was John Force, and it was a surprise to see John Force literally right next to me promoting his sponsors to go and represent at the same event. We were not in public. This was an event strictly for Home Depot employees, so that Home Depot employees could learn more about brands. So there are a lot of events that sponsors will want you to go to. If the sponsor is using you, make sure in advance that it's specified who pays for it. Or perhaps, always have like a 10% budget and allocation, say, 10% of the budget will be used for travel. When that 10% of the budget is hit because travel, those expenses have been met, then we need to either add more or stop all travel. So yes, state that stuff in advance. And I'm not sure if Rich is on yet. Megan, have you ever had an experience where they asked you to go somewhere and you weren't expecting it, and then all of a sudden now you didn't know? Do you upset the sponsor, or do you spend your own money to go to the event? What do you do?
Honest, I haven't really had that happen very often. I do always prefer to have it laid out in the proposal. So like example would be SEMA or PRI show. That's a show where we are attending that usually no matter what, just because we want to be there, face to face with everybody and just say hi to our friends and stuff like that. So when a sponsor wants us to, let's say, come and do an autograph signing at their booth at one of the trade shows, even though we do already plan on being there, we want to make sure that we do get compensated for that time, because it is taking away from our plan to maybe, start a potential relationship with another company, or, just renew one with one of our existing sponsors. So, again, like you said, try to have that laid out in the contract. So what I like to do is just say, because maybe when you are signing the contract or creating the proposal, they might not know exactly what those events are that they want you to go to. So you could just say, Megan Meyer will make 5 appearances for this brand, during this year, and then dates and events to be determined. And so that way they can figure that out exactly what, where they want you to show up and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've done that works. That works for us.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I see that Rich Hausman is queued up. And since we're talking about the value, Rich works with Hook It and Core. and that is the number one valuation company that puts a value on social media. Rich, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing well.
I'm
Megan and
good.
Alex here.
Hey guys, thanks for the invite. I've been listening in, and it's been a great listen so far.
Thank you for that. You know, value is hard because it's probably the most important topic when it comes to sponsorship is what value can somebody provide, and then how does a sponsor view that value? And there's always a disconnect. What a team or an athlete thinks has value is often not the same thing that a company thinks has value, but you can provide a metric that standardizes the value. It's a tool that companies and athletes can use to actually put a dollar figure on visibility. Can you explain real quick how that works? Maybe for those people who don't know and don't use Hookit or Core,
Yeah.
give us a quick overview of what Hookit is.
Um, it's changed a lot, and I think it's a big question. But and I do think putting value on social at a dollar side of things is actually new territory. And
Mhm.
I heard you folks talking about rate cards on traditional media, and I think there's the same rate card for social media value and spend and uh, uh, let's call it technology, valuations, metrics, commerce, which is my fancy title of manager of commerce, actually ends up being the old school part of our business. Which, as I listened in, it was pretty fun to hear some of the big of the companies really talk about sales being the focus, and that's about as core as it gets.
Right.
And so, without confusing everyone who's listening in, Hookit does do a lot of valuation around social media and sponsorship. I happen to be managing our oldest piece of the business that looks at uh, ROI on ambassador programs. So still seems to be in the wheelhouse of what we've been talking about.
Nice. ROI on ambassador programs. So you can actually put a dollar figure on the results that an athlete is getting through social media, and that athlete or the company can look at that and compare it to other athletes in the same series or the same sport, and you can see who's worth more socially.
Yeah, that's close. I think in my world, as far as dollar value in commerce, actually does come down to real dollar value and direct to consumer purchases.
Right.
Take that and what it means into the social media and putting dollar value next to an athlete. We have brands using our data to look at that value versus, say, let's just use two big time athletes like we'll use the stick and ball world, but LeBron James and Cristiano Ronaldo. We can have a brand look at the value between those two and make sponsorship data decisions off of that.
What are the metrics then that the algorithms use? You and I were this talking once, and if I remember right, it had to do with reach and commitment and performance.
Right.
What can athletes or in this case, we're talking to racers who are looking for sponsorships or to increase their value to current sponsors. What
Mm-hmm.
can they do, or what do they need to know in order to increase their value to sponsors? In the way that the Hookit algorithms are gonna find their social posts and put a dollar amount on it. What do racers need to know?
Another heavy question, but I do think what's great about the first part of this summit has been very fundamental. And I think I'll lean on that because what racers and athletes and ways to drive value, a lot of it is knowing how to spell a hashtag from the brand, knowing what app mention, and if they do participate more on Instagram, and then combine that with if you are competitive and you do events. I think people were addressing it sort of lightly, but finishing well at events still does matter, right? So that being on a resume is also good. But how Hookit pertains to this and how I think that we can look at what we've done. One of the questions that I know is going to come up here is the word interactions and the word
Yeah. What is an
valuations.
interaction? Yeah, what does that mean
Right,
exactly?
right. I picked up on Megan's proposal, and I think on her social media slide, she used some stats, and I think she used the word impressions, which I think that largely is spread across all media, right? We've all heard that word. Even interactions these days might be the newer word that we use towards social media. I still use and hear that word a lot, but for what it means to me, and I think what we would love to keep as a fundamental is it's what you can do on the social media platform. So I'm sitting on Instagram right now, wanting to click and like a photo. That heart that you put on that is an interaction. If I today found out who Megan Meyer was and wanted to follow her, that's an interaction. So don't confuse that with being a follower, though. Just to make a
Interesting. Okay.
determination, because I can unfollow you, and that is an interaction, not a good one, right? So
Interesting.
there's a lot of terms that are being used. So I use the word interactions kind of loosely, but if we're on Twitter, a retweet is an interaction. If I'm on Facebook and I shared a post, that's an interaction. If I liked something, that's an interaction. So truth be told, you have a certain number of followers, you get a number of interactions. What does that create? We over at Hook It call that engagement. So that's also a buzzword that you might hear tossed around in all different ways. What does engagement mean? For me, that's power to weight, or us racing folks, that's horsepower, right? There's things like that you might want to look at that can be fundamental. But what Hook It did from day one was rank you on interactions. You can have 50 followers and you get 49 interactions per post. That's about a 99% engagement rate, right? Really, really good. So the numbers across the board that we've learned over 10 years, I think, Alex, you and I touched on this, but just to kind of lay it flat, 5% 5% engagement is actually good. So that goes along with the idea that when you post something, only 10% of your followers actually see it until you actually pay. So